Nancy. My name is Moneca Sinclaire, and I'm recording this for Natasha. Her mother took a course with me, and they contacted me, so here I am. And I had to think about a long time what I wanted to say, because I think it's really important, the words we say, because I've been taught that everything we say and everything we do is spirit. And if we don't say things in a good way, then someone will get hurt. And so for me, Natasha offered me tobacco, so I've taken it, and it's my responsibility now to be able to give those good words and to tell you things that I've learned and how I try to conduct my life. So I started walking this road when I was about 15. I've had such a blessed life. When I was 15, I belonged to this group called Red Sky, and the words meant like a promise of a beautiful day. So every day you wake up and it's a promise that it will be a beautiful day. So those are the things that have kept me going. And when I was 15, I went to this conference in Alberta, the opposite direction. And when I was there, it was the Morley Economical Conference, and it was the year that all the various elders from North America were coming together, and they were talking. They were talking about how our culture was being lost and how important it was to start to give it back. And because many of our elders and medicine people, they were all dying off, and that knowledge was being lost. And one of the things that they were taught as elders to always teach the teachings in the language. But they also recognized that many of our people didn't speak the language anymore because of the history that has happened to us. So when they had this conference, it was taught in English, and part of it was taught in some of the languages, but there was always a translator. And I remember when I was 15, being really excited to hear all these elders, and literally we sat on the ground outside for hours upon hours, but it seemed like time just flew by, because I was sitting there and seeing a whole new life that I've never experienced before this. And so when I left there, I was literally awakened, I guess. And so when I came back to where I lived in Thompson, I drove from Thompson to Morley, Alberta on my own. I went with several other people in a van. My mom let me go. And so I came back, and when I came back, I was always a very studious person. I liked to read and write and draw. And so I came back, and I went running to the library because I wanted to see if I could find any of these stories. But when I got there, there was nothing in the library. We didn't exist. And so I started to just sort of store those stories in my head, and they stayed there for a long time. And then eventually I did go to university when I was about 25. I lived with this woman, and when I lived with her after I finished high school, she used to give me books to read, different books, and make some comments on it. So I'd read the books and make comments, and some words I didn't understand, so I'd get a dictionary and I'd read them and try to figure out what the words meant and sort of sort through my head. And then after about, 8 months of doing this, the woman said to me, you should go to university. And I said, no, I don't think so. I'm not smart enough to do that. She said, no, you really should go, because those books I've been giving you, they're all university textbooks. I was like, oh. So I was really amazed by that. And she said, no, you have a really good mind. And see, when I was in high school, there was very few Aboriginal people that actually ever finished high school. Of 130 people that were in my school, the school that I went to, there was was 7 of us that were Aboriginal students that graduated. And of the 7, probably 4 of us went on to higher education, and I think about 2 of them went right after high school, but there were some of us that went later. And when I was in high school, I used to get really good marks in math and science, but I was encouraged to go into the vocational studies, so that's what I did because I didn't know any better. And so I learned to type, and I learned to file, and I did all those things. And so after high school, I worked as a receptionist and did various odd jobs, chambermaiding, home care, file clerk, a whole bunch of different jobs. But they all gave me experience in something. And for me, that's one of the lessons I've learned is I've just let the Creator guide me to where I need to go, and He felt it was necessary for me to start there, because even though I'm talking right now the way I am, when I was at that age, I would never, ever do anything like this, because I was super, super shy, super, super quiet. And so I did lots of things on my own and was always in the background and quietly doing things, quietly listening. And I think like all those jobs I had helped me kind of get out of being shy and learning to talk to people. And I think like when I think back on it, that's one of the reasons why I hung out in the library a lot, because I didn't have to talk to people. I could just read. You know, and all that reading helped me become the person I am today. Like all those things helped. And I only know that because I think about it and I reflect back. And that's one of the things the elders, I heard the elders say was, to understand the future, you have to go back. And so it took me a while to understand what they meant by that. It means you have to go back and look at your life and see all the good things that have happened. And even the things that are not so good, there's lessons in there. And so for me, I feel really, really totally blessed with my life, even though I've experienced many things that many people ought not to. To me, those are still things I have to learn from. And it's taught me to forgive. It's taught me to just love unconditionally. And so anyway, let's get back to my story about school. So when I was encouraged to go to university, I thought, okay, well, what am I going to do? And I did a little test, and again, it showed that it was high in math and sciences, so they encouraged me to go into the science area. So I went in there, and my first year I failed miserably. I got 4 Fs. Anyway, and I know what the reason was, because when I was in university, I still had this little tape recorder in my head saying that I could never do this and that I wasn't smart enough, and yet there was people encouraging me because they saw something that I didn't see. And so I thought, okay, they see something in me, but I don't see it. So I went to a counselor at that point at the University of Manitoba, and I did counseling for a couple of years with this counselor there while I was studying. And it was like something suddenly woke up in me again, and it said to me, you know, you can do this. And so went back again in September, and of course I was on academic probation, but I managed to pass. I finished my degree, and I finished with good marks, and then I went on to did my master's, and now I'm completing my PhD. And in my PhD program, I got all straight A pluses except for 1 A. And so for me, that journey of education, of trying to change that record from what I knew when I was young, has been a long journey, but it's been an eye-opening journey, because it's helped me realize that I do have potential to do things, and I have potential to help people wherever I can. So for me, that's been my goal, is to always be there for people, and along the journey, I got married and got divorced, and through that marriage, I was blessed to have a son, and he's been a real joy to me, because through him, I get to see what it means to have a positive, healthy childhood. And I was only able to do that because I worked on developing who I am as a person. And my son is, his dad is East Indian and I'm Indian. And so we always say that he's a dot and feather Indian. And he knows that, and he thinks it's funny. So, and he's really, he knows who he is. Like, he knows that he's Cree, because that's the nation I'm from, the Cree nation. And so he's 14 now. And one of the things he's very interested in is in rap. But he does what I call positive rap. He talks about his own identity and what it means to be 14 and what it means to be a teenager. And he's able to talk about his life through that way. And I think that's so great, because I think our teenagers today don't have any outlets for spaces to talk. And like for me, it makes me very sad to see people in our communities, Aboriginal communities, the young kids, the number of kids that are committing suicide. And I know a lot of that has to do with identity, and they're searching for their space and where they belong. Because I think about my own life, and I know if I didn't find that Morley conference, I might have been walking down that same path too. That I might have been walking down that path where drugs and alcohol became part of my life. And that's why I say I think I'm so blessed, because things have happened in my life that have allowed me that just great things to happen. And and so for me, reflection is really important. It's important to always go back and look and see. And I remember when I was in Morley, just the elders talking, and I just remember like the feeling of it. It was really, I can't describe it. It was just like a huge awakening for me.